If you want to learn, you have to first listen.
Welcome to episode 8 of Matt O'Donnell Wants to Know, a podcast to feed our curious minds. I'm Matt O'Donnell, and I want to know who you are. I want to know what you do. I want to know why for the first 10 years I lived in Nashville, I had no allergy troubles, and then these last 3 or 4 years, hello. So there is a little bit of fuzziness in my voice today. But even still, I want to know what matters to you and why. I have spent the past 15 years as a professional bass player. That means I've covered a lot of miles and talked with a lot of people. I've found that the person deeply interested in a topic is often more interesting than the topic itself, and the bigger picture is found in the details. That makes for a fantastic excuse to share conversations with people who I think are great. On today's episode, I am joined by Britt Gondolfi and Amanda Romanick. They are two best friends who have written and illustrated, respectively, the new illustrated book, Look Up, Fontaine the Pigeon Starts a Revolution. I will talk to them about that and so much more in just a moment. I think back to the beginning of the podcast where I integrated an intro spiel that you just heard, and after that, the Google Doc I had of what that would look like says that once I was done with it, I would intro each episode in one of two ways. The first is, here's why this thing that you're about to hear is important to me. The second is, I just found out about this thing and whoa, I need to share it with you. Today's episode might be the first true implementation of the latter version of that. I was at Luma Coffee Roasters in Hammond, Louisiana a couple weeks ago, and I was just about to leave, and my sister-in-law Emily pointed out this children's book that was on top of one of the display cases in the shop. I looked at the back cover and I was pretty blown away by what the book was about. I'm going to quote it here. It is, Fontaine the Pigeon is fed up with the world's addiction to technology. In response, he rallies a cohort of birds to lead an icky revolution that forces people to put down their phones, look up, and connect with nature and each other. Told in lyrical verse and with quirky, poignant illustrations, Look Up, Fontaine the Pigeon Starts a Revolution is a humorous blend of cautionary tale and storytime fun that'll spark conversation and delight readers of all ages. Sold. I was sold on that. And then I looked through it and I really, really enjoyed Amanda's illustration style in there. I was leaving to drive back to Nashville, but I immediately thought, God, I've got to have them on the podcast. That all came together pretty quick, and here we are. A couple of notes about the talk you're about to hear before we get into it. The first is that there's a little bit of audio dropout in Britt and Amanda's end of the talk. We had the conversation over Zoom, and they were both next to each other in front of the same computer, and so some crosstalk happens and things like that. So this is an example of where I pride myself on the audio quality of this podcast for it to be a pleasant listen for you. But sometimes it is way more important to get the story when it matters than to wait for all the green lights to line up down the highway. Secondly, along with the book, Britt has set her original version of the poem into a song. Stick around at the end of the chat because I will be playing that song in its entirety before I lead us out. Oh, one last thing. If you're listening to this for any reason with your children around, at the end of the talk, we have a discussion about Santa that you might want to stop before we get to. Just fair warning. So now, let's go to my chat with Britt Gondolfi and Amanda Romanick.
Yeah, Hammond is budding. It is growing. It is. And I was just talking to the downtown development here about helping them really develop public art space.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah, Hammond's downtown development deal is really kind of crushing it now, huh?
Yeah, we've got coffee shops, we've got wine bars, we got cigar shops, paint together stores, libraries. We're crushing it.
All right, so let's get into Look Up. First off, tell me about the inception of the book. I got to have a brief look at the copy that's hanging around at Luma when my sister-in-law pointed it out to me. I paged through it and I was struck by a couple things. First of all, the concept is great. The artwork is also really great, which is wild because I only had like 35 seconds to look at it, and those two things struck me. So I immediately got this feeling that it was special. So go ahead and describe getting this from like a concept into being a real thing.
It landed on us like a bird dropping. I mean, we had been talking about collaborating together because we were both new moms who had met each other when we were pregnant. The fathers of our children introduced us to each other. They gave us the best things in our lives, our babies and our friendship, and now our children's book. Oh my goodness.
They didn't have anything to do.
They didn't have anything. They did introduce us. They did introduce us. And so we were, I love to write and play music, and Amanda is an incredibly, obviously talented illustrator. And so we were coming up with ideas for children's book characters, and Amanda had said something, we needed a character named Fontaine. And I was like, Fontaine the Pigeon. And that just existed in our memories for a while. And I think someone said, Fontaine the Pigeon starts a revolution. And we had no idea what the revolution would be. I was going to try to get Mardi Gras to go green. I was like, this pigeon's going to stop us from throwing a bunch of lead-induced plastic at each other.
Uh-huh.
But one day we took a walk because we had been sitting with each other and taking care of our babies, taking care of ourselves, and like doom scrolling. Just, Netflix on the TV, baby in your arms, phone in your hand. Girl, look at this, look at this. And we were just sort of like, what the heck are we doing? What are we doing? We need to get outside. We need to get out of the house. There's 3 screens up. This is not the way that we wanted to live or to parent. And so Amanda jokingly said to me, sometimes I wish that a bird would just poo on my phone and I would just wake up, like have this mass awakening of consciousness.
Yeah.
Nature hits technology, humans go back to analog. And I was like, Amanda, that is brilliant. What if all of the birds are furious at us, in fact, and they're plotting actually to stage a day of action in which they poo on all of our phones? And it becomes it's coordinated attack. And so we went home and laughed the whole way home about people dodging bird poo and how the birds could just so strategically target our screens. And we wrote this little poem on my phone, and it sat there for years. And for years I'd been like, Amanda, I swear to you, I think this little pigeon book, I think it's really good. And she's like, I know, but it takes a lot to self-publish and it's a lot to illustrate. And then the pandemic happened and I was like, this is the perfect time. And Amanda was like,
it's tone deaf. I was fine with doing the illustration, but I was like, we cannot put this out right now.
And I was like, I was like, this is perfect. Everyone's home alone on their phones. And she's like, exactly. They need their phones right now. We can't create this book about birds pooing on our phones when there's no other way for us right now, in this wild world we're living in to really be together. And so I had actually tried to find another illustrator to do it with Amanda's blessing and permission, and it completely fell through. And the long story short is that I had some old friends who were just kind of gossiping about me trying to get this book done and it not working out this way, not working out that way. And the woman they were gossiping to was like, well, my stepson is a literary agent. Here's his cell phone. And so we met and I shared the book with him and he signed me as an artist. And then within several months, the book was bought and they got Amanda, the publishing company, because she had done all these beautiful sketches, was like, yeah, you and your best friend should do this book together, which is really rare in the publishing world, to be a published author and then to basically have your best friend be your creative partner in it. And so we were stoked. And yesterday was our agent's birthday. So thank you, Jesse. Happy birthday. We love her. We love you so much.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know you just blessed him, but in terms of because you guys are best friends, was there any interesting editorial control that came from that instead of being an author that would be with an assigned illustrator or anything like that?
Yeah, I think so. So the cool thing about us knowing each other and being so close in proximity, you know, I live in Folsom, so I was able to just come over here.
That's just round yonder.
Yeah.
Just y'all. That's just 22 minutes. Just yonder the road.
The book was such a collaborative effort in a way. You know, we kind of came up with the basic idea of the story together, and then I'm not a writer, and Britt is a wonderful writer, and she made this beautiful poem, wrote this beautiful song. Then Britt really fully trusted me to come up with the visual storytelling aspect. So there was discussion between like Britt and I about, okay, well, there's going to be a bunch of birds, but we never talked about like, let's make these specific characters. She just like let me do that. So
yeah,
Britt really let me dive into that world and create it. And
well, I've been harassing her to do it for years. So the least that I could do is just to be like, whatever you want, darling, it's fine. I had Illustrator notes, you know, that I'd been like, this is what I would draw for every page if you ever want to make this book together. And so when we actually got a publishing deal, and I felt like I like came home with the bacon, and I was like, okay, mama, it's yours. Like, of course. I was like, whatever you want. So Amanda would always be able to call me and say, the publishing company, they don't like this. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. It's perfect. It's perfect. You need to call them. Call the agent right now and tell them to stop this. Or I would call Amanda and say, they are destroying my song. They're trying to add contacts. It's a bot.
There was an edit that Britt was like, this edit's wrong. It doesn't feel right. And because I could see the storytelling from a different perspective, the visual storytelling, I saw an opportunity to take this edit that she didn't like and put it somewhere else. So I moved some of the pages around, and then I added a page that wasn't there before, which is the page where the little boy says,
hey, I think these birds want us to give these phones a rest.
Which was a great addition to the story. So we were able to work together that way. And I'm going to be honest with you, I literally emailed my art director and the editor, and I was like, just trust me, I'm going to add this page and change this, but you'll get it you'll understand when it's over.
So we did have some leverage power together. I had never experienced the publishing editorial process. I was mortified.
Yeah, of course.
Because I was simultaneously like so thankful that this poem and this song was going to live, and I was so thankful that Amanda and I were working. It was a dream come true. But then I didn't realize how much you might have to fight for your version.
Yeah, for sure.
Us having each other's backs was so valuable. It was invaluable.
And our editor is great, Bobby.
Oh,
we
everybody
love you.
was wonderful.
Everyone's great. Paw Prince, Baker Taylor, we love you. You guys are fabulous. It's just, we're persnickety artists who wanted things to be a certain way, and they want this book to sell. And somewhere in the middle, I think we came up with a really great compromise.
Oh, yeah. I think everybody on the team started to really trust our process, and they let us just run with it. Because at first it was like, stick to these deadlines, turn this type of thing in on this day. And towards the end, it was like, no, just do it. And it came out perfect.
It might have been their own desperation. They're like, you know what?
Everybody was sick.
You girls just do what you want.
Yeah.
Everybody had COVID.
Perfect.
Yeah, that kind of thing happens a lot. I mean, in editorial processes, whether it's that or in music with production, where it's like there's a difference between like totally obliterating your deadlines and also there being wiggle room for the product to be better. It happens with record labels all the time where they obviously want something in their hands exactly right at the time because they're already starting promotion. But if there's like wiggle room for a week or something, but yeah, it definitely sounds like you guys had a great team and that the book probably turned out better for the fact that you guys had each other's backs and were able to get that kind of thing through.
We talked about it together for years.
Yeah.
I mean, literally.
Yeah.
Our babies were less than a year old when or maybe a year and some change when we came up with it. And they're going to be 8 this year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for allowing things to happen in their own time. And this was the right time for the book.
100%.
To come out and be born into the world.
You couldn't have told me that 4 years ago, but now
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that I'm a firm believer in like things in their own time and stuff like that. I would love to hear about you pitching it as a spoken word project, because somewhere in the story there is Amanda saying that Britt will do a good explanation of it being pitched as a spoken word project, and then that doesn't exist anywhere. And so I'm curious to hear about that.
So the agent that we were introduced to told me that the best way to get your book bought is to build relationships with the people you want to have it bought from. He's like, so I'm going to a party to celebrate librarians at this library conference in New Orleans. Well, it's in a bar off of Bourbon Street, and the entire publishing company is there, and they're honoring these awesome librarians from Brooklyn who had given a library card to anyone in the country that asks them for it, to have all their digital archives and access. And it's at the time, and the time is still happening, where librarians are just being bullied by people that don't have better things to do.
Yeah.
So I'm at this like library party, which is way more turnt than you would ever imagine. Okay. Like smash all your stereotypes about librarians, go to a librarian conference and like come back the same. You won't. They're different. They're different. They're not quiet. You take them out the library. They're wild and brilliant and hilarious. So everyone is just having the time of their lives. And Jesse is like, okay, so that's the editor of the children's book division. And I think those are some of the sales guys, you know, so like I'm like inching forward with my little drink, just I'm gonna make it to them. And they're like, oh, who are you, young lady, standing awkwardly dying to get our and I'm like, oh, I'm Britt. Jesse is my agent. He's representing us with this book about birds that, hate us for being on our cell phones, so they poo on them. I was like, can I tell you the story? Can I just do it for you? It's a 2 minutes tops. And so then I just do it. I just spoken word, do the poem for them, and acting it out.
Yeah.
And they cracked up laughing. And I remember the sales guy slapping the editor, being like, Bobby, I want this book. You better buy this book, Bobby. Bobby, we got to get this book. And then we proceed to take them to go do karaoke on Bourbon Street till 4 a.m. And like, I'm driving home and I'm like, is that it? Did I just get a book deal? No. Months later.
That was that whole like Louisiana, we made a deal. We did.
Yeah.
We drank together. We sang together. We did poetry in the streets together. But months later, Jesse reaches out and he's like, those people that you slam poetry they want the book, and they don't want me to pitch it to any of the larger publishing houses, like no Scholastic, no Abrams. He's like, they want me to just stop, and they're willing to give you the opportunity to work with your best friend. And I was like, well, we stop, like, let's just, there was something to be said for working with a publishing house that's really as old as Baker and Taylor is, but that has this brand new imprint, this brand new kids division.
Yeah.
So it was going to be a more intimate working environment than the larger, let's pump out as many books as we can publishing companies. And so we went with them, and we went to our first book signing at another librarian conference. Wild, raging time. Long story short, we go to this book signing together, and the sales guy is there. And I'm like, I couldn't tell because it was really dark in the bar. And I was like, are you the guy? He's like, yeah. He's like, you did the poem for me. He's like, we love it. He's like, it's the best thing. It was really cool to see that person an entire year later, and we're signing this book, laughing about how, I just approached him in a bar and forced poetry upon him.
Yeah, I ran into him first, and he was like, who serenaded me in the bar in New Orleans? I was like, that does not sound like me. This sounds like Britt. It's me.
Yeah, that's incredible. Also, going up to someone and assaulting them with poetry is so not a very 21st century thing.
We need to bring it back.
Yeah, honestly. I think that's reach back into the annals of history and drag back the notion of assaulting people with poetry. It's
in our ancestral memory. Okay, I mean, it's being lived out in certain segments of human culture. We still we'll have a cipher, we can still have a rap battle, we'll still do spoken word, poetry night. But in terms of just like going up to someone being like, let me lay some bars on you right now.
Some iambic pentameter on you.
I got a haiku for you.
Just the mention of the idea of it being spoken word made me think of something interesting, since we're all late 80s babies here. It makes me think about, did you guys ever grow up with the like book and like read along cassette?
And then
With like the magic turn the page thing?
Yeah.
Famously, that is how I taught myself how to read at age 3.
Wow.
I just listened to the same ones over and over again until I knew what the words looked like and sounded like, and that's how I learned how to read.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you an angel from God plugging our next product? Because it just so happens that our publishing company just got a deal with the company that wants to bring that book style back.
Awesome. It's funny because as I was prepping for this, slowly and just nebulously over the past couple days, I was thinking about how I don't know how you would necessarily do that anymore. It was so like tangible for the cassette for like kids to be able to do it themselves with some sort of digital platforming seemed like something that would be tough. But how is that? How is this company planning to do that?
It's like a small computer next to the book. So it's built into, it's a hardware.
Oh, cool.
No QR code, but it's a hardware that connects.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's great. I mean, I often think about not being a parent quite yet and thinking, how am I going to teach my kids how to read? I don't know no one taught me how to read, so I need to think about how our kids are going to learn to read.
I think just by reading to them, I think that's the whole trick, is that if you keep a book in your hands as often as you can with your kid in the evenings, they will follow and mimic. If you keep a screen in your hand, in my case, I'm just talking for me. Okay.
Sure.
They will follow. I've got my daughter making fake laptops by folding paper in half and drawing little squares, like pretending to suffer.
Yeah.
He also makes fake CDs because Britt has like a CD player in the house and they play music, and she makes like CDs with like the inserts and all the art. She makes them and like gives them to you out of paper with a song in it.
Gosh, that's
So that's
incredible.
also,
Thank you. I was trying to take I'm a bad mom for being on my screen diatribe, and you're like, but you're still doing some things right.
yeah, no, Sophia's amazing.
Before we start like getting into a lot of the like illustrative stuff and then get into some more conceptual things, tell me about the song. I didn't get to hear it, and so I'm just curious about all things songy.
It's a simple little 4-chord repeat strummer. I mean, you're not going to know the melody of the song by reading the book, because everyone can, create their own. But it's a sweet and it's a simple song, and it's kind of my version of the poem. It's not exactly directly to text of the book. Me producing a song to accompany the story is my sort of like Taylor's version, Britt's version. I gave you guys this poem and the rights to produce it. I love it. Love what you did. But I really want like the original, very simple, very scaled down. The original poem is not as wordy as the book is.
Okay.
It's really dialed down to as little as it can be. And so, yes, the song is my opportunity just to be like, it's not an I told you so. It's just, this is it with music.
What are your plans to have that like out? Is it going to like accompany the book, or like will you have like a direct way through to like download that, or are you planning to put it out like independently, like of the book, or what's the deal?
So we're working with our agent, who is also a children's book author, and he just did a book where he's had music produced for different scenes in the book. And they have an agency that's going to host those songs, and it'll be a QR code accompanied with the next print of his big book that just came out, The Switch. Shout out to The Switch and Jesse Bird. So we're thinking of just following that model, where we're just going to put it out through our agent's, media agency.
Yeah.
As opposed to us, I don't know. We could try.
It'd be really cool to have like a little like single vinyl for sale on our website.
Okay, Amanda wants to do a single vinyl for sale on our website. We're going to do a single vinyl. She's the creative director of our business together. We don't know yet.
The album art could be really cool.
The album art could Be really cool. Who knows? Okay, so never mind. Change your plans. We sell the book. We're good. I'm logging into DistroKid right now. I mean,
we can do both.
It's gonna. We're trying to get the song done so that it can come out April 30th when the book publishes, and we have been fantasizing of a cute little music video where we sort of demonstrate our lives with screens and our relationship to screens and our kids' relationships to screens.
Yeah.
And maybe Fontaine, our little hero, community organizer, will be in it as well.
That would be cool.
It's just a way to promote it. It's just another avenue for it to exist, and another way to inspire people to get the actual physical art.
Yeah, I love that. So Amanda, let's talk some about the illustration stuff, because this is a very strikingly beautiful book. I love a number of things about it. First of all, just like some of the heavy line work is really nice. I also really like the color palette overall. Like, that's just a good thematic set of hues. I'm also pretty obsessed with the typeface in it as well. Tell me about, like, just imagining what Fontaine and his world of poo was going to be like.
I spent a lot of time thinking about building this world. I spent a long time obsessing about how do I make it believable that these birds could have this lifestyle going on for kids, because I feel like my kid in particular is one that'll very quickly call out something that's completely ridiculous and be like, I can't believe this. And then he'll lose his interest. He'll lose interest very quickly. So I was like, I need a child to be able to read this story and then walk out on a sidewalk with their parent and see a pigeon and imagine that this could really be happening, that they could have a community and they could have all these little personalities, and like this could be going on, for it to be really fun. So I spent a lot of time thinking about how I was going to show the people and how I was going to really kind of infuse the birds with a lot of personality so that it could be believable for them.
And all the characters that you see from the first page, if I can interject, are consistent throughout the entire story. Like, Amanda really did build an incredible universe where there's so much exposure to a certain cast of characters, both bird and human alike. Like, I'm just looking at the first spread and I'm like, wait, she's brilliant. They're all here. They're all, I mean, it's just the little birds having their wardrobes.
Yes, the birds are kind of like the artists that you see in the misfits of the city.
Yeah.
The people in the book, on the very first page of the book, at some point, my goal here was that a parent would read this book with their child, and then the child would want to read it again and again. And I knew that they were going to flip back and forth between the pages that are white, the poop scenes,
the climax of the story.
There are these two white pages, and the kids just flip back and forth, looking at what happens, the before and after, the during, this whole little part of it, where it's like, oh, what happened to this guy, and what happened to this one, and what happened to this one.
Yeah.
So I knew they'd spend a lot of time on that page. But then when you go to read it the second time, you start on the first, and you realize, wait, that little boy and his mom they live here. This is their routine. They walk this way every morning.
Yeah.
Like, oh, these two teenage boys and their cats, they probably live here too. They hang out here. This is what they do. You can look through and you'll find all the characters kind of like in the beginning of the story. And then there are other characters you can tell, like, oh, these people are on vacation. They're visiting. And you can come up with these stories about everybody in the book. I felt like that encouraged parent and child to create new stories and spend more time together enjoying this. It's like a jumping off point to be like, okay, well, we want you to put your phone down and connect and have a good time together. So maybe this can help you. This can be a place to start. You can start coming up with your own stories about the backstories of these characters in the book. And the pigeons have their own little community too. And I ended up naming all of them so that I could keep track of what was going on. And also because I thought, well,
yeah, of course,
if I strategically illustrate this the right way, we can have sequels that make sense.
I was definitely going to ask about that. At some point, I was going to ask about the idea of sequeling. I feel like there's a lot of room in here. I guess like I'm picking up on exactly the thing you were trying to convey is like all these little possible like side avenues to like travel down for future things. It's super cool the way you're describing getting sort of like more self-referential with repeated readings in the way that like good sort of modern sitcoms do that, you know, things like The Office or Arrested Development, where, you know, there are jokes that are laid episodes in advance, and it isn't until you watch it multiple times that you see, you know, the groundwork being laid for something like that. And I feel like you're definitely trying to do that through the book.
Yes. That is very intentional. Thank you for picking up on that. I spent a lot of time thinking about it and also kind of feeling pushed to just hurry up and put something out. And I ended up putting so many hours into this thing. I didn't have very long to draw it. I had about 2 months to draw this. Mm-hmm. And I spent a lot of my time working on it. It was like I was pulling like 10-hour days just on the book.
Yeah.
Trying to put all those things in there.
Yeah. And I think that we will all wait with bated breath to see how, you know, the book does once it's released. But I think that level of care that you put into it ultimately makes it a better book. I mean, not that I should act like as a voracious reader that I read a lot of children's books, but the fact that I do not have a child and don't spend a lot of time in children's book land, but going through this book and being really struck by it as an adult, I hope is like a good sign for someone who isn't, you know, naturally in a position to be exposed to a children's book.
Well, we wrote this book for adults. We wrote this book for us. We didn't write this book for kids.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
I mean, but to be sincere, I mean, like this poem that we wrote, I mean, there's like a mom who looks down at her screen. Like that's us. Like we are referencing the experience of like being disappointed in yourself for surrendering to the screen technology, to the addiction, to be perpetually checking, you know, like this is really a Trojan horse. It's a children's book that's really meant for the parent, because the parent is the one that's going to be able to determine the child's relationship to the screen.
Yeah.
All that happens with this story is that some little pin will be put in a child's mind to be like, it is a little weird that everyone is looking down. Did we always have these? You know, are we supposed to always be looking down? What did we do before this? You know, I want to inspire a conversation where an older adult would tell a child, well, back in my day, you know, we had to use typewriter and go and do the Dewey Decimal System. You know, like back in my day, we had the rotary. Like, his kids don't know.
Yeah, of
Children
course.
have no idea that they don't know how new it is.
Right.
They may be told and they may know, well, we didn't have this when we were young, but how deep are we going into the conversation of literally how fresh the technology is? It is fresh in the span of human history.
Yeah, of course.
And so what I really pray is that lots of adults will get into this book, because we need to kind of return, you know, we're late 80s babies. We didn't grow up with this.
Yeah.
So we need to return to how we were existing in childhood, where we weren't compulsively checking or waking up to, you know, get this close with a screen. It's just been a really funny thing because, yeah, it's a kid's book, but like, jokes on you guys, like this is for everybody.
I want to say, even the poem being a poem was strategic in a way. Britt and I talked about it, and as parents, we enjoy reading the books that have a rhythm to them more than books that don't.
Yeah.
And children like them too. And then they can become easy to memorize. And that's a good thing when you're learning to read. So we wanted to create a book that parents would enjoy reading, because kids want you to read it again and again and again. We wanted a book that you could read it over and over and over again. It wouldn't be exhausting to read this book, and that it might actually be really fun. And that's why the poem was so important, being a poem, which we had to fight for, because we were told, not by Baker and Taylor, they were totally for the poem, but one of the other publishers that we ran into down the line I'm trying to get this book out there. Told us that rhyming books were out.
Rhyming books are out. Animal books out. We were slapped. We were like, they're like, very cute, but that's like, who do you think you are, Dr. Seuss? No. You know, we were told that our whole premise and form was completely outdated and had no commercial value. Mm-hmm. So that was funny because as moms, like, I want a quick bedtime story. Yeah. I want some, I want a page turner when I'm trying to get you to bed, you know.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not trying to read Moby Dick to you. Right. You know, I'm trying to read Goodnight Moon.
Yeah.
I want Llama Llama Red Pajama, not, you know, War and Peace. So like we wanted a story that was fast paced, if you will.
Yeah, we wanted the words to be simple, easy to memorize. We wanted parents to maybe turn it into a song when they were reading it. And this is all about connection, connecting through music, connecting through storytelling, connecting through creativity. That's why there's so much in it. And like the more and more you go through it, you're going to find extra little bits and pieces in the book. And the keeping the poem simple was important, to not have it be too overwhelming, to allow so much room for creativity, for expanding the story, for the reader, for the children and the parents to expand on this story. It was important to keep it simple. And as far as the art goes, it was important to like basically give them a lot to work with.
Yeah, a couple things on that, just in terms of hopefully, I think these things will validate you. Two stories that I have. One is that I have been around the business author Donald Miller a little bit, and he will say to people at these seminars of his that I've been to in a non-attending capacity that the best thing that business people can do when they're learning to speak in front of other people is memorize some poetry. That's like his thing. He'll say, like, if you don't feel confident about speaking in front of people, memorize poetry, like understand that cadence. It'll help people who are writing business books be better. It'll help you be better at, you know, talking about business and things like that. So definitely being told that having a poem is passé is hogwash. And then the other thing too is when I was studying at Berkeley, I took a class with James Taylor's brother Livingston, and it was on stage performance. One of the first things he would make you do, everybody in the class, and I think we may have even had to do it passing the rhythm on to each other, would be to kind of like sort of march in place in rhythm, like a slow rhythm, and talk about ourselves, because rhythm creates like a safe space to be within. He would, you know, move on in that class to talk about how if you, as a music performer, that like your sense of rhythm is like the most important thing, because it's the thing that will like lull people in. And if your time is bad or you drop the time, it is jarring to them. And so yet another reason why I think that like metered rhyming poetry, especially to like start instilling that in kids, if there are publishers that are trying to get off of that, I'm sure that there are plenty of books that have none of that are wildly successful right now. But I think that it is a disservice to the whole. And so I think that you guys like sticking to that is crucial and important, you know.
That's why the song is coming out too, because when I got my first edits back, I remember calling the agent and being like, what do I do? Like, I don't want to tell them how offended I am, but like, I have to speak for this poem. Like, we can't do this, you know? And I ended up making a table where it was like, this is your poem. This is my poem.
Yeah.
And here's my notes and my comments on the differences. And I like highlighted the areas in which I thought they had a good point. And then I highlighted in another color. I'm like, this is what I'm not moving, like we're not changing, like, and
yeah,
it was a memo with a chart and a color code system and a very apologetic letter that was laced with all sorts of like, I'm not used to advocating for myself, trauma buffering language.
Sure.
I was CC'd on all this.
She was CC'd on So, yes, we need poetry and we need music and we need rhythm because there is a safety. There is a safety in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have found the only reason I've continually played music in my life because I'm not a professional musician. I'll go play little coffee shops and restaurants and things, on a rare occasion if someone asks. But, I play music so I can just get on my guitar and just start playing and talking. Because if you, have some sort of melody going, you can really unload some thoughts and feelings, as Taylor Swift is showing everyone, with the 30-song album.
Yeah, that's right. Britt, it sounds like you have a good engine for like spite with a little bit of politeness.
Wow, yeah. Send me an invoice for this therapy session.
I could hear in your voice talking about like getting notes back and being like, no, I'm going to fight for this. And then, because the chart thing is what I would do. I would use something like so bombastic, but scalpel level detailed to like show somebody. I feel your energy there.
It's funny. Yeah.
Let me just throw in here real quick. When I developed the character design for Fontaine, because we don't talk about Fontaine's personality much in the poem, we kind of hint to it. Yeah. But Fontaine's personality that kind of comes through in his facial expressions of the way that he like moves around, that's based on Britt.
Incredible.
I hope you can kind of see that from this story.
I can't help it. I'm a Libra. I believe in justice and beauty and fairness.
I love that. I know we're kind of, conceptually jumping around a bit, but I was stopped looking at the PDF of the book on this page. And I will tell you the page that I love the most, it is on this PDF, like the second page, so like the second spread that's shot from like the ground.
Listen.
I love that because it would of course make sense that there are plenty of, panels that are from the literally bird's eye view. I love that perspective on those two pages. That one really gets me in the design feels. That is sort of a thing, even though that one is my favorite, I think throughout, using so many different perspective angles, up, down, and sideways and everything is really something to be celebrated about this as a whole.
Thank you. When I was a student at SCAD, I've been drawing for a very long time. I was in the St. Tammany Parish Talented Arts program since I was 5. And then I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design. And when I went to college, I was really good at perspective. And I was one of the few students in my classes as a college student who was able to just draw perspective without having to map it out and do it in a very mechanical way because I've been doing it for so long. So I really just threw that in there in the book. I thought it was really funny to play with bird's eye view and worm's eye view when we're talking about when the book's about birds.
Oh, yeah. No, that makes sense.
Those were the earlier pieces, too, I think, that you had done.
That was that one. I drew those character designs during the pandemic. The actual page changed a lot until it got to that final one. Yeah.
But it is incredible how many different angles. This is definitely no Super Mario world, one character walking across a 2-dimensional sphere. I mean, you're up in people's faces, you're high above, you're down below, you're deep in an oak tree. I mean, you're going places. It's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, what were some of your guys' favorite children's books? Maybe even like growing up, not necessarily like the ones that you're reading to your kids now. Although the ones that got referenced by name earlier kind of are lasting power ones. There wasn't a ton.
For sure.
Ton in that list that was like
Llama
new.
Llama Red Pajama. I mean, don't tell me poetry doesn't sell. Don't say that to Llama Llama, did you?
Let's see. My favorite children's book, especially to read to my son, was Dr. Seuss's The Butter Batter book.
Oh, that's a sleeper.
It's not super well known.
Wait, The Butter War?
Butter Batter, yeah.
Wow.
That one was one of my favorites.
It's going to be woke.
Well, I lost the book when we moved to Louisiana.
I need to get
all of Scout's books are still in Atlanta. But there was that book. There was this really wonderful book called Instructions. Let's see, by Neil Gaiman.
The guy that did American Gods?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That I loved to read to Scout as well. But our other favorite one is The Jungle Book, and we read like the actual big Jungle Book. That's another favorite.
Rudyard Kipling, yeah. What a great piece of literature that is.
So awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Double-sided series of bug books where like there was this bug town and all these bugs were different characters. They all started off with a poem where a few words would change depending on the season. It was like, as you lay on a bright spring day in a warm and sunny place, don't look up into the skies. Instead, look down, squint your eyes, squint them so very tight that if you look with all your might, you find a land that's more than small. In this land, there's bugs. That's all. And like, I was obsessed with these books. And now I still have them. I read them to my daughter.
Yeah.
The first book I ever read to Sophia when she was fresh out the womb and born, it was really for me, but I did read it out loud to her, was Jitterbug Perfume by Tom Robbins. Shout out to, I think, one of the greatest authors of all time. But he has this fantastic book about perfume and living forever, and it's semi-set in New Orleans. And so, yeah, we love it on the line.
Where the Sidewalk Ends was also a favorite of mine.
I was about to say I'm big on Shel Silverstein, who is incredible and also a fantastic songwriter. Has many a country hit song. Probably knowing what authors make on books and what a crime that is. That he probably was able to live a decent life just on Johnny Cash songs that he had written. It's interesting that Amanda, that you had such experience with like a good Dr. Seuss book and Where the Sidewalk Ends, because I feel like you either grow up a Dr. Seuss or a Shel person, leaning one way or the other, and it informs what kind of weirdness level matrix you have.
I love a variety of music. I love a variety of literature, I guess, of tales. I love stories. And as a child, I spent most of my, if I could go to the library every day, I would.
Yeah.
It's my favorite place. I was always checking books out of our library in Slidell, where I grew up. I just loved being there. And then as I got older, my original major was sequential art at SCAD, and sequential art is comics.
Yeah.
I loved, one of my favorite comic books from when I was in school was called Day Tripper by Fabio Moon and Gabrielle Ba. I still love that book. I actually don't own a copy because every time I buy it, I give it to somebody I really care about instead of keeping it.
I'm just about to be like, hey Siri, please buy Butter Batter and Day Tripper.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a note instead.
You can't read Day Tripper to Sophia.
She's on it.
Day Tripper is not for children. Yeah, don't share that with your child.
Amanda, what other comics do you love? My like college and slightly post-college years were full of like getting back into being a comics nerd.
I really, 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 really like The Umbrella Academy by Gerard Way. It's illustrated by Gabrielle Ba. I really love the colorist Dave Stewart's coloring. Is just amazing. I was always pretty inspired by his coloring. And I love Gabrielle Ba's, Fabio's his brother, Gabrielle Ba's art style. It's so playful. And I just enjoy reading, looking at the art. And I love Gerard Way's storytelling. It's just wild and kind of hilarious. And I really love his storytelling. I love his writing. So that was probably my very favorite. I definitely read Preacher. I'm trying to think, what else did I have? I feel like everything else is kind of escaping me. Those just really jumped out in my memory. But I had a whole collection. Watchmen, of course.
Yeah, Watchmen is great. Funny that you brought up Dave Stewart. He did Darwin Cook's DC: The New Frontier. Yeah. And the color work in that is truly incredible. Have you looked into any of Jeff Lemire's self-drawn stuff?
No.
I think you would like a lot of his stuff, like Sweet Tooth.
Oh yeah. I've seen Sweet Tooth. Yes.
Yeah, that's like the like hallmark example of like what Jeff Lemire's style is like. It seems like, if I'm just projecting based on like, going through look up, that you would be really into that stuff.
Yeah, that's another one that I like. I just I didn't have that one in my collection. That would have probably been next on my list. for sure.
But you can pick up that there is some graphic art love, I think, on a few of the
for sure.
threads in the book. And I think you've definitely incorporated your love of comic books in this children's book.
Well, like once I grew up, like I still love the library and I still spent a lot of time there, but the bookstore in town was a comic book shop, and in Savannah, Georgia, where I was in school, and I was there. I had a routine where I would get up and leave my apartment. I would walk from my apartment through Forsyth Park, like go get a stop at like the Gallery Espresso and get a coffee, and then go down to the comic book shop, which actually isn't there anymore. Sadly, it was gone.
Oh no!
When I went to visit recently, it was like a video. It was a video rental shop that had comics. It was like going to Video Joe. Yeah,
to adapt.
Yeah, it was like last standing one.
Retail. They couldn't do just comics. You got stopped going there. It went out of business.
I moved to Atlanta, and
they're like, there she goes. There goes the light bill, guys. We're gonna have to.
Oh my gosh,
espresso machine in here.
I loved going there. I stood out like a sore thumb. I didn't look like somebody who would be hanging out in a comic book store for sure. I got some weird attention.
Girl, that wasn't you. That was them. But little did they know that in the you would be a Caldecott winning New York Times bestseller.
You're just putting it out there.
Just putting it out there. Claiming it.
I love that. Hey, does anybody read The Stinky Cheese Man anymore?
Oh, yes. I just read that.
Love Stinky Cheese Man in this house.
Yeah.
That is like our number one. Thank you for bringing this up. Yes.
We have some friends who have kids who are like my primary exposure to kids. If either of you guys know Robbie Klein, he's a Hammondite.
Oh, yeah.
Robbie and his wife are like my wife's childhood best friends, and they are like their longest friends. Yeah, one time I was trying to be like, I bet they would love The Stinky Cheese Man, and it was the hardest book to find for a while.
What?
And yeah, it was like almost impossible to find. And I was like, did this go out of print? Did The Stinky Cheese Man get canceled?
No.
And luckily that is not the case. I since found a copy and I do have it around. But yeah, just I never hear people talk about The Stinky Cheese Man and other tales as being like a book.
Fairly stupid tales.
Yeah, that's right. They are in fact that.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, that one, such a classic. Yes.
I know. Little Red Running Shorts.
Yep.
Cinderella Rumpelstiltskin or something like that.
The Gingerbread Man, I think, was my favorite.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna have to, as soon as we get out of this, I'm gonna have to go grab it and like page through it, pull it off my shelf of many books.
Yeah, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the Stinky Cheese Man that no one wants to catch him because he's still like, no, we're good. You're good. Yeah. He was like the equivalent of the modern girl. Like if they wanted to, they would. They're like, no, we're good.
The Stinky Cheese Man has a feminist tale.
Remix.
That's really funny.
It is.
Oh, something I definitely wanted to talk about, which gets a little more esoteric than just being about the book. I'm curious, based on your timeline, I had noticed the idea that, it had taken you some time to write and that both of your children would be, school aged now. And so I'm curious to think, like, what are your feelings in terms of what kind of tech goes into school nowadays? Again, like, I don't have kids, but like, it is an important part of the world. And so I'm curious how you guys think about reconciling the idea of like, maybe you should look up from your screen all the time with also like enabling kids to be prepared for what will come at them in the world and how that goes into like education.
Well, Amanda's going to be more of a moderate than me on this, so I'm going to open up the floor to create the safe space. I have fantasy taking my daughter's iPad and symbolically laying it upon a tree stump in the yard and traumatizing her by bashing it with a hammer over and over and over again, and then being like, it's gone. And then she'll like hate me for years and she'll have to talk about it with her therapist. And then feel guilty because of all the children that are murdered and exploited by mining for uranium in the Congo. And I would have felt like I would have wasted, the gift of the technology. I should have just hid it or returned it to the store.
Yeah.
But I am of the belief that you and me and everybody older than us took no time to adapt to this. It was easy peasy lemon squeezy. We got it. We figured it out.
Yeah.
You can switch from Android to Apple. This notion that we need to necessarily expose our children to a certain level of technology so that they will be able to, compete and get a job in this modern world, I think has led our classrooms to be so laissez-faire with how much technology children have because, schools are justifying that because the screen exposure is educational, that it's not screen time. But science is saying that anything over 2 hours where your frame of vision is shrunk from the wider world around you to about, maybe 15 inches, 13 inches, if it's like a small phone, like we are shrinking our capacity to see wide. And I wish more than anything that this book takes off so I could put my child in a school that is a screen reduced environment or minimalism on the screen, because she will have to grapple with it for the rest of her adult life. And I would love for her to have a childhood similar to mine, where it is not a constant. And I know that I didn't get my smartphone until I was 20, and I work from home and I'm fully adjusted on Zoom and I'm fine now at 35. So I don't feel like I need to necessarily get my kid started with technology just to prepare her. I think that they'll figure it out, and I would love to try to preserve her childhood. But my kid's totally addicted to the iPad. And I went to law school as a single mom, and I really leaned on technology to get the time that I needed. And I know a lot of parents have a lot of reasons why they just need to give their kid the Disney Plus login and the iPad or the cell phone, or just hand over the Amazon stick and just be like, Godspeed, I'll be back.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. It's like no judgment. I mean, I judge myself constantly because once you have a child that is hooked on the technology, the war to wrestle it from them is exhausting.
Yeah.
So if you can teach your child that they're happier without it, I mean, good luck fighting the dopamine monster.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
My kid learned to read because she found the Amazon app. And she was like, Mom, how do you spell, unicorn backpack? I'm like, why the hell do you want to spell unicorn backpack? Because she's shopping,
Yeah.
Anyway, I've just been on a crazy rant, but I'm a screen addict that's not even sought recovery yet. And my child is as well. And we have this book coming out about getting off of our screens. And philosophically, I want to take us back to analog. I want to force my kid to learn how to type on a Smith and Corona.
Yeah.
Yeah. My take on it is actually pretty close to Britt's. It involves less trauma, less,
right.
It was a fantasy I have. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm gonna smash it.
I'm just, I understand that. Absolutely. Yes. So I feel like what I'm trying to do, I don't always get to implement this. Like I've said in the beginning, I work at Luma Coffee Roasters at night. So my child is with his grandparents in the evenings when I'm at work. And I'm pretty sure, I know that he does go outside because he's gotten really good at climbing trees. And my parents have 6 racehorses that are retired. They have a racehorse retirement center.
Oh, that's cool.
Horse ladies. Think about cat ladies, but for sick horses.
Incredible.
Yeah. So my parents started taking them in, and my son spends his evenings. He comes home from school. He helps. Give them hay and water, and he has chores he does. I know he goes home and goes in the house and spends a bunch of time on his iPad because he's gotten too good at Minecraft not to. We don't actually have internet access at my house. So he's not by choice. My dad doesn't believe in the internet and will not allow me to. That's why I'm here sitting next to Britt instead of at my house, because I don't have internet access. So he's not on YouTube, but he does play video games. And I kind of try to see it as he gets to spend the same amount of time on his iPad that I as a child would have spent maybe watching TV.
Yeah.
And really, he's just playing a video game. And then we do have movie night together, but it's not on the iPad. It's on like a TV. It's like with a DVD player. And we've been watching The Mummy and Indiana Jones. So
incredible.
He has
perfect. Sophie was telling me the most. It's fine. They'll be fine.
Boy.
They'll be fine. Brendan Fraser and The Mummy is a fantastic film, but Sophia for days was like, Mom, when the mummy takes the life out of that, she's like, it's really scary. I was like, you need to see The Mummy. She's like, Scout's out. I'm like, it's fine. It's fine.
I'm sorry. To be fair, I watch it with him and I explained to him how I was like, a prop person makes this thing and it's not real. And then like I sat and explained to him that like, this is just computer animation. It's CG. It's not real. So like the actor was wearing these dots on his face, and then like, so he doesn't find it scary, but
she's traumatized by it.
I'm so sorry.
So you're,
I mean, of the Egyptian, you know, spiritual person. He's like, why did the fiance kill herself? I'm like, oh my God.
I'm sorry. They were playing.
Grandma does the same thing. Okay, they were ends of the galaxy. People are getting impaled.
They were playing. I saw worse. When I was,
my mom
they were playing in the tent, and
I was like
Scout. They were playing in the tent, and Scout definitely stuck the DVD in to the TV and was like, "Here, watch this." So that's definitely what happened.
But you're also out there kind of destroying your son's like sense of imagination by telling them about the props designer and stuff.
Well, I didn't want him to have nightmares. So
yeah, no, that's totally fine.
He also loves to know. You have to know your kid. Everybody's different. He loves to know how things are made.
Yeah,
and he asks a lot of questions. So I was like, I'm just going to tell you the truth. But yeah, for the record, Santa Claus comes to our house. There is definitely an Easter bunny, and the tooth fairy sometimes forgets to leave the money and comes 3 days later. And she usually leaves a little note about how dirty the teeth are. So.
But see, this is where we're different, because my kid is like coming home terrified from watching this movie, but she knows that I am Santa Claus. Okay. And that anyway, she knows too much. She knows too much.
Oh,
you are a perfect parent until you have a child.
Yeah.
Then you become a human being.
Yeah.
I have a friend who is definitely going to listen to this, and he'll be glad I'm telling his story, that he found out about Santa Claus when he was like being driven to school one day, and he was just gabbing on and on about what he wanted from Santa, and apparently his mom couldn't take it anymore, and he was getting out of the car, and she said, "You know who Santa is? Me!" And then he had to like go into school and just be shell-shocked.
Yeah, I had a traumatic finding out. I felt betrayed. I was like, what? I was like distraught. I was like, you think I'm stupid? And, I was like really turned up about the betrayal. So I just made sure really soon. I was like, look, Sophia, I don't know why we do this. I don't know why we tell kids that this guy buys this stuff, but it's me. I buy the stuff. The closest thing to Santa Claus is the FedEx man that's bringing it. Okay. And, he needs a union. And so
you'll have to have like a warning on this, not to let your kids listen to it because we reveal the truth.
Yeah, I definitely will. I'll make sure that gets in there.
Santa. Just for the record, Santa only brings like 2 or 3 presents to Scout. And I made sure that like what Santa brings is never like something big and expensive. It's always something kind of cool and fun and like really thoughtful, like, hey, I saw that you kind of like this and it wasn't on your list, but I think you should try it. Like Santa brought Scout a longboard this year.
Oh, cool.
Because his scooter was too small and he was trying to kind of skateboard on it. And I thought, Santa's watching and noticed this and brought you this beautiful longboard. But like I got him all the other stuff for Christmas. So, and I always say that where it's time to play Santa. And Scout has asked me a few times, like, who's Santa? And I was like, he's the spirit of Christmas. So like, one day I'm going to reveal that Santa's a game we play. And like, hopefully if one day he gets the opportunity to have siblings, he can play Santa for them. So hopefully it'll become like a really sweet.
Meanwhile, my kid on the bus being like, my mom said Santa's not real and they're just trying to sell us more plastic to destroy the planet. You know, just destroying children.
You know, you don't get different strokes for different folks if there aren't different parents for different folks. So,
yeah, this is true.
You guys are just creating the whole spectrum of humanity through the ways that you are preserving or destroying your children's vision of the holidays.
I will say this, my daughter still writes letters to Santa knowing that he's not real. And my child, you know, could become like a new age Instagram influencer for manifestation techniques. I mean, I swear, you know, this kid opened up a letter recently. She's like, Mom, I wrote this letter to Santa Claus and look what it says. And it's this picture of my mother's cat. That cat just got forced to live at our house. My mom's like, you've got to take this cat off my hands. Like, I can't handle it anymore. Sophia was like, Mom, I asked Santa Claus for Mia, Mimi's cat. And look, it's in the house now. So my child is trying to tell me that the spirit of Christmas, you know, is manifesting the pets that she wants.
Incredible. I feel like most people don't ever go out of their way to acquire a cat. They just end up with a cat. Like that seems like 95% of cat stories to me.
Over it.
All of her cats she ended up with. The best story is Baby Girl, also known as John, Prince of Bats.
He had to have a renaming because we didn't know that Baby Girl wasn't a baby girl until Baby Boy became full grown.
Oh.
We spent a lot of time fearing that Baby Girl was pregnant, which was really funny.
I was like, Nita, something wrong with Baby Girl? Like, she seems kind of like lethargic. Like, she's pregnant? And then one day, Baby Girl came down the stairs. We're like, whoa, Baby Girl. You are not a baby girl. You're a big boy. And then Sophia told me one day, she goes, I think he really resents being called Baby Girl. Like, we're misgendering the cat. And she's like, his real name is John, Prince of Bats. You know,
out of the mouths of babes.
Having kids is fun. Yeah, right. Whoever said that was right. It's hard, but it's super fun.
I am excited for that experience. Hopefully someday soon. Gosh, well, I think we covered most things, but the one thing I wanted to really point out is that I'm so glad that in the book that Fontaine has a French Revolution cap.
Yes,
that really made me happy as someone who took to the French Revolution when I was in college, taking the mandatory, history classes among all of my music classes that had to happen, which most people at Berkeley hated. I was all about it because it was a nice break. And also, I mean, it's the same reason why this isn't solely a music podcast. I could easily snap my fingers and have a great just only music podcast, but I would be so bored. And so that's why it is diverse. But it did make me think, in the French Revolution, eventually they talked about how, around the guillotine, like the streets ran with blood from like the amount of people that were executed. And I like to imagine that in the sequel to the book that the streets are running with bird poop.
I don't know if the sequel's going to involve bird poop. We'll see. But there might be there might be something. I don't want to say too much. We're discussing it.
Yeah, we're either
there might be a history thing going on a little bit.
Yeah, we're still playing. We're still playing. I really want our cadre of organizing birds to improve our school systems. And
oh gosh, that's something we could talk about forever.
I don't know how they're going to do that yet. I mean, but I think the birds have a better chance of figuring out than the Louisiana State Legislature. But I don't know. So we're still dreaming of what the next social conundrum these animals will take on together.
What's the next revolution? Yeah. The phones and the bird poop one, literally, like, it just was all of a sudden I was like, this is so obvious. We're sitting here trying to figure out what this revolution is going to be. And it's like, it's just right in front of us.
Yeah, right.
Which was great. I guess we kind of have to allow that experience to happen again. We have to allow that to happen again.
Remind me when the book comes out. When's it official?
April 30th.
April 30th, which is my birthday. So thank you for doing that. through the podcast and the birthday, I'm really the conduit for your success, I would imagine.
No, there's something really powerful about this birthday. My really good friend that ran for Attorney General of Louisiana is also an April 30th birthday.
Yeah.
And she's already said that the book's birthday is good luck. And now you...
What other things are you guys doing to promote the book?
We have a book signing on May 4th at Luma Coffee Roasters. And it's going to be a pretty fun and kind of like a wide event. You want to tell a little bit more about it?
Yeah, we're setting up shop at the coffee shop from about 9 to 10, signing and selling books and bags. And Amanda's got some incredible art prints that she's done that are concept pieces from the stories.
Yeah.
And then we're going to head over to Salt, their new little sandwich shop down the corner. And we're going to play the song and we're going to read it and then we're going to sing it. And then we're all going down to the Louisiana Children's Discovery Center. It's like a little kids museum thing down the street and just have a little like kind of let your kid play after party.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we have we have our own site that we're selling the book from.
This part's
straight from the author and illustrator. If you'd like to buy your book directly from us, we'll sign it for you and send like special art things that we've created for it. It's FontaineThePigeon.com.
Because here's the thing, kids, if you get a traditional publishing deal, they, put your book in Walmart and Target, you make about $1.25, and then your agent's going to take 25 cents. But if you either self-publish or do what Amanda and I have done, you can buy your own copies from the publishing house, set up your own site and store it to sell it, and you can act like you're self-published with a traditional publishing deal.
I do have to say that I love our publishing. We love them. We love them so much. Baker and Taylor's a wonderful company. I'm so happy that we ended up there with them. Also, I do want to shout out one more thing to Luma. If the owners of Luma, Devin, Catherine, Logan, and Shelby had not been so supportive, I don't know how I would have been able to have time to do this book, because they gave me off work as much as possible over the summer so that I could focus on this. And then I still have my job, which is like amazing.
Yeah.
Which once we're on the New York Times bestseller, to the owners of Luma, she quits.
I'll never really leave.
Just kidding.
I'll always be there in some way.
Manifesting it.
Incredible. It's funny, I will actually be in Louisiana when your book signing is happening, but I will be busy that day officiating my brother-in-law's wedding.
Okay.
So I will miss out on that entirely. So
Britt's going to be on Frenchman Street in New Orleans every single night from 7 to midnight.
For the second weekend of Jazz Fest at a bookstore, they're letting us do a busking book signing where we're just going to set up shop in front of one of the main corners on Frenchman Street, which is the official after party location for Jazz Fest.
Yeah, that sounds incredible.
The Rolling Stones will come buy a copy and, shout it out, and Disney will pick it up and will become philanthropists. I'm
so glad that you have the entire thing planned out all the way into your retirement age.
Yeah. Probably learn a lot of lessons the hard way, but we're going to stay dreamers the whole way through. We're going to stay optimistic.
No, we're not going to learn any hard lessons. I've decided.
Okay, never mind. We're done. We're done.
Smooth sailing.
Single moms with 7-year-olds from Louisiana. Hard days are over.
All right. On that note, thank you so much for being here. I am so pumped about this book, and I hope that it does, all the things that you dream of it doing. So.
Thank you so much for having us and chatting this up.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Hey, I just wanted to jump in here real quick before we got to the song and share kind of an interesting note. Obviously, the conversation was me meeting Britt and Amanda, but really until the day of, I had no idea that Britt was a musician. That is in much the same way that episode 4's Molly Martin had been focused on music before jumping into the culinary world, and I didn't know that either until my wife, Amanda, pointed that out to me. I just think that it's a wild testament to the power of music that so many people who I find interesting, without knowing if they could even hum along to the radio, happen to also be into making music. The future for artistry and music still may just be bright enough. Anyway, here is the song version of Look Up in its entirety. This is, as you heard us talk about, Britt's version of the poem before the copy editor got to it. Please enjoy this.
Everyone was looking down. All around, faces face the ground. People tried to look up, but when they did, their heads got stuck. And the birds would watch from up above, wondering what happened to the planet they love. A little pigeon got so tired of all the insanity. He dreamed up all the ways he could wake up humanity. I can't do it alone. The little guy realized I've got to educate, co-create. I gotta organize. So he got organized. So he says to the birds, the situation is poo. They gathered all together to discuss what to do. They spent one night in a big old oak tree. How do we get them back to reality? They decided each time they saw a scream that they'd let loose a little natural stream. You know what I mean? Oh, you know what we mean. So it started one day like all the others. The pigeons were on power lines and babies with mothers. Then one mom looks down to her screen. She had to look up, she heard the most bizarre scream. Viva la revolution, a pigeon cried, and then the poop rained down from the sky, from the French Quarter down the streetcar line. One single clean screen you could not find before. Every time someone looked down, a glob of bird poop took that phone to the ground. There was chaos all around. Suddenly people all sadly realized they had been staring at their phones instead of living their lives. They'd forgotten the water, the land, the air, and the birds. Forgot how to use their voice and their words. So give thanks. Now kids, let's give thanks to the birds. And when you guys are outside, just make sure you keep your phone in your pocket and your eyes up and wide. Yeah, make sure you keep your eyes up and wide. Look up.
My sincerest thanks to Britt and Amanda for coming on the show. Please head over to fontainethepigeon.com and consider buying the book directly from them. Direct support purchasing is always better for the creators. I have looked and it's available on Amazon and all your other normal places. However, that's less fun, isn't it? Thank you for listening to this episode and all the other episodes of Matt O'Donnell Wants to Know. As always, you can follow the show on Instagram at Matt O'Donnell Wants to Know. You can follow me on Instagram at Matt O'Donnell. If you have questions, comments, concerns, hate mail, love mail, scented mail. No, scented mail doesn't really work this way. Whatever. Send that along to the show's email, matto'donnellwantstoKnow@gmail.com. Obviously, the way the bi-weekly schedule falls, there will be no episode on April 30th, but be sure to say nice things to me for my birthday. And while you're at it, if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, follow, YouTube, review, tell a friend, tell 5 friends, tell 20 friends, whatever. We're doing it. We're doing this. We're doing it. I'm handing out stickers of the show's artwork to all my friends, family, foes, some people I've just met, whatever. If you want one, email me and we can work something out to get one to you. But that's going to do it for this time. Be sure and take care of yourself. And remember, the best answer to a question is usually another question. See ya!